Greetings, beloved. I'm Dr. Felicia LeBoy, lead pastor and life coach here at the historic First United Methodist Church in downtown Elgin, Illinois, with another motivational moment from the Bible. These motivational moments are designed to help you take what you hear in church on Sunday, what you may learn in Sunday school, what you may even read during your private devotional time. It's to take those biblical concepts and to make them a part of your everyday life. This week, I want us to focus in on this idea of market. What are you talking about, Pastor Felicia? Let me see if I can explain. If you heard our Sunday broadcast from this past week, you know that our church commemorated 9/11. Not to just talk about the horror or the number of people that were lost, the lives that were lost that day, but to talk about the heroics of that day, right? To talk about the ways that some people were spared, to give honor to what happened that day, to remind us that whereas terrorism seems to reign, that God still brought us out as a nation and that we are doing fine. Maybe not as well as we want to be, but we're doing fine. You know, lots of times you and I have places in our life where we mark significant events. Birthdays come and we get a cake or we go to dinner, right? People pass away and we get a headstone. We have some kind of way to mark those important events. There's a baptism. We do things to mark that. But often you and I do not take time to mark the miracles that God does for us. We don't take time, even daily, to just think about all the ways that God has delivered us, to think about all the times that we were worried about something, the times when we had no idea about how God could get us through something. We were sick, a loved one was sick, something happened, we were lonely, God sent someone to us, all kinds of ways, day by day, God keeps on blessing us. And the issue is that when you and I fail to remember, then our faith is not encouraged. And we'll come to a new test that's kind of like the old one, and we won't have anything to build ourselves up on. That's why you mark it. In Joshua chapter 4, the children of Israel find themselves just at the edge of the Jordan. The new generation is preparing to take over and to move into the promised land. The issue is, many of them weren't even born when Moses raised his hand, and the Red Sea split. Many of them never saw that miracle. Every day they've seen a miracle because they've been fed by manna. But a Jordan River with rising floodwaters, never seen nothing like that. And so rather than doing it the way that Joshua and Caleb knew that God could, okay, Joshua, where's your staff? Raise your head out. God opens the thing up. God tells Joshua, here's what I want you to do. I want you to line up the people and get ready to cross over. And we're going to send the priests first. And what happens is, it's not when the priests' feet initially hit the water. When the rabbis are explaining this, they say that really the story behind the text is that it's not until the rabbis get almost chin deep, that the water recedes and the people can cross over. It's kind of like God saying, I took you through on dry land. Let me see if you'll believe me when the water starts to look like you're going to drown. That's a whole nother sermon. Here's my point. The priests get in the middle of the water. It looks like they're going to drown. The people go across on dry land. And God does it as an encouragement to let them know, I'm with you. And this over here, these people that are in the promised land, that are sitting on the things that I promised you, nothing to me. I got you. And there's a way to remind them and to remind their children, because the water's not going to be flooded all the time. He tells them, I need you to get each tribe to get a rock, not some little small stone, but to get a big thing and put it someplace in the middle of the river, stack them all up together. And so when the river recedes and times are good, and people ask you, what does that mean? You can tell them about how I delivered you. And you can look at that as a measure of my faithfulness. Beloved, just like the children of Israel need those kind of memories, so do we. Every day God is faithful. God has been faithful, God is faithful, and God will be faithful. But if you're anything like me, when new trials and tests come, initially I forget that. I forget that he has been for me Jehovah Jireh, my provider. I forget that he's led me places that I couldn't see, and yet he still blessed me in spite of me. He's done the same thing for you. Beloved, going through the water or telling that story reminds me of our baptism, right? In the United Methodist Church, we do something called Remember Your Baptism and Be Thankful. Not as something hokey, but to remember that at our baptism, God pronounces over us that we are his. And not that we are just his, we are his beloved, whom he loves and in whom he is well pleased before we do anything. But also, we mark those things to remind ourselves that we are in covenant with God, which means God does a part and we do a part. The 9/11 remembrance area in New York is there, yes, for people to observe, but it's also there to encourage us that when times get tough, that we get tough too. Beloved, that's what those things are for. So here's my question and my challenge for this week. Where in your life do you need to mark it? Where do you need to go back and put up something that reminds you of the faithfulness of God in your life, so that when the rough times come, when the devil tells you that you're not going to make it, you can look and see and say, oh yeah, God delivered me before and he will surely deliver me now. And even if he doesn't, I still choose to trust God. See, beloved, we keep looking for people to come to church. They're not coming because people keep giving them facts. They need to see faith. They need to see that God really works and works with his people. And they won't see that unless we tell them. Scripture tells us in Psalms that the redeemed of the Lord should say something. And often we don't, because we don't want to be thought as those people. Yeah, we are those people. Those people, we are in covenant. And when we don't display that we are those people, it's kind of like me being married but not wearing my wedding ring because I don't want people who might be offended because I have a husband to be ashamed because I was with Adrian. Sounds stupid, right? But we do it all the time with God. That's a sermon for another day, a motivational moment for another day. Here's my point. Where do you and I need to mark it, to put something up that reminds us about the faithfulness of God specifically in our life? While you ponder that, head over to our Refresh Your Soul moment and listen to Stephen Curtis Chapman's song, Remember to Remember. Beloved, I am Dr. Felicia LeBoy, lead pastor and life coach here at the historic First United Methodist Church in downtown Elgin, Illinois. Be blessed. I love you, and I'll see you here next week.
Well, I've been looking back over my shoulder, retracing every step, trying to forget. And I see the mountaintops I've journeyed over, and I see the valleys deep where I crawled on my hands and knees. Pages of memories filled with joy and stained with tears. They call my name, and if I listen, I can hear them saying, remember the way he led you up to the top of the highest mountain. Remember the way he carried you through the deepest dark. Remember his promises for every step on the road ahead. Look where you've been, where you're going, and remember to remember, remember, remember. And now I'm looking out at the road that's waiting, but my eyes can only see so far out ahead of me. As sure as the sun will shine, there'll be more mountains I will climb, and more deep, dark shadowlands where desperate faith is all I have. Until I'm home, I'm resting all my hope name is God with us. Remember the way He led us up to the top of the highest mountain. Remember the way He carried us through the deepest dark. Remember His promises for every step on the road ahead. Look where we've been and where we're going, and remember to remember. Remember the day is come, He's gonna wipe the tears away. He'll look in our eyes and say, remember the way I led you up the mountain. Remember the way I carried